Hi, it's Nancy welcoming you to Garden Scroll. Today I'm going to cut off some of my old spent blooms. I have old spent blooms all over the garden, but this is definitely one to show you how ridiculous they can look. And also if you clip these off, it will make sure that the plant itself is growing its root and its flower for next year. It's putting that all together somehow. That's what it does. And so I'm going to clip some of these off. I'm going to clip all of these off. So now not only does it look so much better and neater, and it makes a pretty little bush, and they say from what I've read, they say to leave the foliage until the fall and then just trim it all the way down to the ground because it's going to come back from its little tuber. And you can actually get seed from this. I actually have some before I learned that you could take these off, and then the plant will use its energies to make its tuber bigger and better and make the bloom for next season. So that's what I really want to do, and I'm going to see how many of these I can get off today, but I'm not sure. I have other things I need to do. But we'll see. This one at least is a great start. Looks so much better than it did before. And also it's from what I read, it said to be sure and leave your plant until later in the fall because the foliage does aid, but this little bloom on here does not aid it in any way whatsoever. As a matter of fact, it will put its energies into this seed, to making seed for you, when really if you want another plant of the same kind, so much easier just to dig it up, divide it, leave some little root nodules where there's coming a little stem is beginning to form, and just plant that. They're best divided in the fall in September or October, but I divided some or dug up a piece and gave to friends, and I'm thinking that little rhizome, or actually I think they're called tubers, but I'm pretty sure that little tuber will go ahead, even though it doesn't have anything on it to feed it. It won't bloom next year, but it will come right on up from that little tuber and just keep going. It's what I'm thinking it will do. Peonies, of course, are not cut and come again like roses, zinnias, and some of the other flowers. Even this pretty catmint, look at, isn't this a beauty again? Remember last year it got the pot got stopped up and it wasn't draining good and it died, but I just put little starts from other places where I have it, and this season right now it's looking great. But back to the peonies, because they do not come, the bloom will not come back until next spring, but they're always so worth it. It's a pretty little green bush, or it will be when I get all this old dead stuff off of here. But and the bloom is always wonderful. And also it's a plant that it's a perennial that you do not have to divide if you don't want to. And yet if you decide, well, mine is getting so widespread there, I think I'd like to cut a little bit of it back, and you know someone who would love to have that piece, just go ahead and give it to them. And it will not hurt yours at all. Yours will go, just keep right on going till it's back as big as it normally would be. We got just a little bit more rain, and look what it brought out. All these beautiful calabachoa or mini petunias, but they are looking so lovely. I was griping that mine never seemed to do this, And it still remains to be seen that they live very long. So, but I'm hoping they will. Other people can do it. I've just got to keep trying. They're so beautiful, so full, and so pretty. I love these hanging out of a basket or even out of a little container like this one. And then right there beside it, let's go over and look what it did to my little strawberry pot. It just literally filled it out all over. Looking so good. It's got to be the rain. And even this little yellow petunia is filling out more. My little pink and white calabachoa that I had in this pot though has died. Actually, it's still in there. If I can find it for you, I'll show you where it's still. But I'm not finding it for you, but it is in there. But it's gone. It's not going to come back. I always hope for it too, so I left it in there just in case, and it can just blend in with this other little calabachoa that I found. Isn't that a beauty too? And we'll see how long it will last, but it's looking good right now. So yesterday I did go ahead and I made a hole in the ground excuse me, and then I filled it with some pebbles so that my little plant stand would be somewhat anchored, although it just kept going down in the ground. It's barely up. I'm one day probably going to try to get a taller one, because I love it when these things hang down and not just fall in the ground, but just really hang down and show off so prettily. But it was perfect for setting this on. I thought it wasn't going to fit, and I couldn't find a taller one, but it fit enough that it stabilized it right there. I don't think any wind's going to just blow it over. Well, unless, you know, straight winds, tornadoes, maybe something like that could. But it would literally have to pick it up and then over to get it out of there. And because I'm really pretty tired of planting, and I've already purchased more plants than I should, but you know, I love them so, and I get to show them to you, so they're they have a purpose. So anyway, I put seed in here, and I thought, oh, the bright yellow, golden yellow, and this white is going to look so great. But then I didn't have enough of the seed, because I've been putting it everywhere in every pot that doesn't have something else in it. So I looked through the seed to see what I had enough of, and they were red-orange. So, but I still think that's going to look great. So hopefully we'll have this will be a really bright and beautiful spot later on in the season. Also, I did go ahead and clean out, you know, this is the little purple heart pot that I cleaned out earlier, and then I went ahead and did this one and this one. So they're all cleaned out now, and you can tell this first one that I cleaned out is pretty much taking off, and the others will follow suit, I believe. So I finished clipping the peonies in the front yard. Let's see, there's a little scrap of one there, and I never did get this little plant moved, this little bush. And I know I need to, because I think it's, as soon as our grass get a little bit taller, it's going to block the sun from it. I think that's its problem. I really don't know for sure, but I love this little bush. I would like to save it if possible. But I was going to say the peonies are all gone for the season, but look what's coming up to take their place in the garden. The beautiful Asiatic lilies. And I already have some little seeds coming up that I planted recently just before Katie's graduation. Some of these are actually from last year, because I didn't plant petunias this year, and so I know they're coming coming up. And of course these are the bells of Ireland. I have one blooming over there. I'll take you over and show it to you too. But I just wanted to show you that some of my little seedlings are coming up. And these are probably all zinnia seed, which is wonderful. I love the little profusion and Zahara zinnias, the ones that are just not very tall, but they have a beautiful, either a small bloom that's just a profusion of bloom like a bouquet on one little stalk, one little short stalk, or else a full bloom. The Zaharas have, and they don't get very tall, but their bloom is as if it was on just a regular size zinnia. These of course are my husband's radishes, and you can tell they're beginning to rise up a little, and we could see the red. So actually we had a couple of these, but they're still very small, but they taste good. And this is my bells of Ireland that actually is blooming. See the little bells on there? I love this little plant. You'll find it on a lot of the florist arrangement. Not only are my seeds coming up in my seed box, but I see some coming up here in the little pots. Look at this one that was dying. I clipped it back and it is trying to come out of it. Oh, I hope it makes it. And then look at that little start right there. I took it off this one, and I had said that one other one was the only one I had of the Hurricane Jenny, but I believe that's what this is. It's just so small right now, but I think it will grow up and be a beautiful little Hurricane Jenny coleus. And these are the second time, I hate it when I have to do them twice, but that I put impatiens in here, but they do seem to be doing fine right now, and if they keep going they'll just be beautiful. I had one in the front part of this little pot that didn't make it, but those in the back look great, and if they get big enough they will actually fill this little pot out enough, I think. Found another Asiatic lily in bloom, and I may have already shown you these. They've been in bloom for several days now, and I did go ahead and put that earth sign right beside them. I think it looks good with them. And then of course these won't last very long, and this little pot will still have some color in it. But I think I may take a break from the garden the rest of the day, or at least part of the day. I'm still hoping we get some more rain. We were forecast to have maybe 3 inches, and so far we've got a little bit less than 1/10. So we could certainly use some more, but not complaining either, because it's been wonderful to have the little bit that we've had and the cooler weather, and it's allowed me to put in the plants that I still needed to put in and to plant the seeds. And as you saw, some of them are even coming up already, so that's great. And I haven't trimmed back the old dead peony blooms or any other bloom back here in the back, but look, we still have one beautiful one. This is the Sarah Bernhardt pink, and of course the Stella d'Or daylilies are usually the first lilies to bloom. Rain also made the sweet peas burst into bloom. They look so great. I need to tie this up a little closer. I just have it there on the tomato cage, but it needs to be tied up closer to it so that I can get by easily on my little path. And I'm loving the yarrow. This is the bright red. I was thinking this was pink. I do have some pink somewhere, I'm pretty sure. I hope I do, because I love that pastel pink too. But I I forgot that I had this and I was contemplating getting some, but I talked myself out of it, and then I wished I hadn't, and then this came up and I'm like, oh my goodness, I could have just taken a piece of this and moved it. This is one of the plants I wanted to move last fall, but I got so busy and wrapped up into trying to prepare for a little tour, and I'm just not going to have those anymore unless there should come a day that I can actually hire some help so that I can have some of this other stuff done as well as the garden tours. Until then, we're going to do away with the garden tours, except for the ones on the YouTube channel. And you know, it's true that I can go into what's beautiful, what's blooming pretty, and stay away a little bit more from all the ratty looking stuff in the garden. But I think I've said before, but if you want constant perfection, gardening is not really probably what you should be doing, because there's always something that needs to be done in the garden. Oh, I saw a real squirrel. I even tried to get a little clip. I may have gotten it, but it was too far away and probably too blurry, but we'll see. If it isn't, I'll put it on too. Some of the yarrows in this area, like this one, is the pink, the pretty pastel pink, and I've forgotten which color I had over here in this little pot that my brother fixed up for me. So it may be the pretty pastel pink too. And I put one of the New Guinea impatiens in the center of this little pot of columbine because of course the blooms are gone now, but this pretty little green foliage just stays until frost, and it's always pretty. But I think with that impatient that will have pretty pink blooms, it will be even more eye-catching. Today is May the 26th. We're coming up on Memorial Day weekend. And I was just thinking that last year I forgot about Memorial Day weekend till right at the last, but I did get the flowers on. But actually yesterday we went over and put flowers on the grave sites and just had our usual little trek, our little nostalgic routine that we do as much as we can. So much of our little landmarks are gone now, but I wanted to tell you that I did see where the dirt is fresh. I put some fresh dirt in here after I pulled a bunch of this out. We got that ½ inch of rain, and it's just a wonderful time. Today is kind of rainy like, and it even misted a little. Nothing that just poured down, but I was out here, and so I just decided let's go ahead and get some of that done, because God was good enough to give me all that rain and that time, because when He gives me rain, He gives me time. Otherwise I would be out here watering everything, and this way I can do other things. I'll show you where I put these little starts, or these little divisions, I should say, I guess, but I just put them right here. My husband said he had tried to transplant some here, but I think he did it when we got those 3 days, right before we got those 3 days of hot weather in the 90s, and that's all we've had of the really hot weather. So it's been great, and this has probably been the best season I've had for planting and for transplanting. Remember my little yellow green bush that was here? I told my husband this morning that I would like to move that, and he said, go get me the shovel. We didn't move it very far, but I think it'll get enough sun now that if that is the problem, which I'm not sure that's what it is, but it could be. So if that's its problem, maybe it'll fill all back out again and look great again. I would love that so much. I love this little tree, and it looks good here already. Even though it's so scraggly, it just looks good here. And I dug up some more of my creeping Jenny in these little spots and put some more soil over them, so they will just grow right back over those bare spots. You won't be able to tell they were there in a few weeks. And I put them under my strawberry pot. And I have several of the tall verbena growing up here. You can tell there's a little place there where I dug some out. And I transplanted them onto around the ground around this little, there's one of them right there. And this little daylily is called Screaming Orange. And it certainly is huge, and it certainly calls attention to itself, but it's even more so when it has something. Actually, these are blue balloon flowers, which also bring out that orange color. But I put another of the tall verbena on this side because I just think orange and purple just pop in the garden. You can tell I haven't got to trimming the old spent blooms off the peonies and roses, but that's because of the rain, and I just had other things to do, so I did those things. And I'm also thinking about figuring out how many roses that I need to kill out. I hate to kill anything out, but sometimes things get invasive, and the roses, they're not invasive. This is not one that I want to kill out by any means, nor is this little one down here with all this color. But the old roses, the old red roses that, not this one either, isn't that gorgeous, but the roses that have all turned to the same color, this one, the one on the end down there, and of course this one, I've told you this is the one I would keep of all of them, I think. And then the ones over on the other fence right over there, I would like to keep those also. But all the rest of them, including this one right here, I want to change those out to some different color on root roses that will stay the color I put in instead of going back to this color. And I have several in the garden too. Even though this one is red, it is not one of them. This is my knockout rose, and this is not one of them. It has more of a purple shade to it. But there's one right there close to it that is just one of the old roses now, even though it didn't start out to be. So all of those I want to kill out so that I can be ready, maybe even next spring, if Lord willing and I get to do that. I may go ahead and try to order some more roses to put in those places. And I also got out my garden notes that I had taken even from last year, and I have actually done a lot, most all of the things that I planned, not quite all though. And one of them was to put alyssum in a bigger pot so that it has a chance to live through the heat of summer, because once it makes it through there, it just begins to show off. And I would love to have a great big pot of just alyssum just flowing out. But I've already got everything filled up with seeds, I think. But I'll look around and see what I can find. And I may put it just around the edges of this pot. And while this little mum will fill this pot up, I may go ahead and put it around the edges of it too. That would be beautiful if it has room to grow in there. And I think this little plant in front of it might be an end top, which is just a total circular spear of a little flower. Very pretty. But when I ordered the plants this season, I thought it was probably a mistake because of those 3 days of heat that we already had. And when I order a lot or several, it makes it very hard to get them in and take care of them. But I'm so glad I did, because it turned out to be a wonderful time to try to get things established in the garden. This is from last year's, but there's so many plants that are beginning to get established now, and it makes the garden feel just so much more mature and lovely. I think I may have shown you already, but this little pink penstemon is one of my new babies for this year. And this little one right here is another of the penstemon, and it's a purple or lavender. I think it may have some white in it too, but it has not bloomed yet. And as I'm saying it hasn't bloomed, I'm looking over here and seeing that this little widow's tears plant is in bloom, and I love this color, this soft white and purple, just so pretty. And one day soon I've got to get out here and hoe underneath these trees, because the birds love these evergreen trees, and therefore they drop little seedling trees of all kinds underneath here, and I definitely want to get those up before it's extremely hard to get them up. And I'm looking over here at my little 9-bark, which is another new plant for this season, and I was a little skeptical to get one because they are susceptible to a disease of mildew or fungus from being wet. That's what killed my other one. I was watering it, and the sprinkler hose got on it and the sun, and it just took it right out. But I'm hoping this will make it. Also, the butterfly plant is looking great. It's brightening up in its pretty orange color. Please be sure to like and to subscribe to the channel.